Central banks and interest rates. All about the debt baby, but beware your interest expense bill. An IncomeLuxe.com lesson. Central banks are the big bad daddy of the economy. Oh, daddy. When he wants to play, it's time to play. When he wants you to zip it up and sit down, you zip it up and sit the hell down. But don't get it wrong. You're always his bottom. No debate. Except when you're not. And when everyone in the economy is in his house but they all lose confidence in his leadership, all hell breaks loose. Welcome to chaos. Let's go over how Daddy makes it work in his house. Daddy. Sorry, I'm having too much fun. Central banks have a wide number of tools, but the two you want to pay the most attention to are interest rates and quantitative easing. If interest rates are low and quantitative easing is high, the stock market is going up. But why do they control it to begin with? Inflation, deflation, and mandates. Central banks want inflation to be around 2% to 3%. This rate usually means the economy is growing, but isn't growing too fast. It also isn't collapsing. If inflation is high, it's hyperinflating. This means prices are rising too fast in the economy, but usually means the currency is losing value or becoming worthless. This happens when too much currency exists relative to currency demand. You know those stories about dollar bills being used to make purses that sell for more than the value of the currency, or people using wheelbarrows filled with money to buy bread? That's this. Hyperinflation sucks, cause your wages aren't going up but the price of everything does. Half your salary goes into food. No joke. The opposite is also a problem. Deflation is the fall in prices and goods, but inflation rates falls below zero, so prices are actually falling. What? How's that a problem? Because demand for goods is falling. For whatever reason, people prefer to save or pay debts than spend money, usually by force. If no one's spending money, no one's making money, so people are getting laid off at workplaces. This further creates more people who have to save what little they have left instead of spending it, which results in even more fall in demand, and more deflation, and repeat. Don't get confused though, there's two types of deflating prices. If prices are actively falling, it's deflation. If prices are rising, but rising slower, it's disinflation. Central banks will play with the money supply, the amount of money in the economy, to balance it against demand for the currency. Hopefully, it's exactly 2% to 3% inflation when they're done. Interest rates. Like we pointed out in economic cycles, when interest rates are low, people borrow money because borrowing money is cheap. This borrowing drives the two uses of debt, wasteful consumer debt and intelligent productivity debt. When rates are low, it's easy to borrow and invest that money in ventures that will make more money than the interest plus principal payments on the debt. Why? Rates are in the basement. Intelligent people will borrow to start or expand businesses while it's cheap, and stupid people borrow to spend money on consumer debt. Both will do it while rates are low. When rates go up, interest payments on the same amount of principal will go up with it. This discourages people from borrowing. Additionally, variable rates, which are whatever the base interest rate is plus a spread, will rise, so whoever is on a variable rate will pay more than they did before in interest. Both investment and consumption borrowing goes down when rates go up. It's harder to make a profit off an investment when borrowing at high rates, and all those clothes you bought on credit aren't worth it at higher rates. Well, they aren't worth it on debt anyway, but the stupidity never ends. Central banks lower rates to jumpstart economies, knowing everyone will borrow. They raise rates to slow down economies, knowing it'll eat into everyone's borrowing and slow their spending. The rate of borrowing is called credit creation. Hopefully, this keeps the economy near the mandate. If not, dominant daddy has to break out the big guns. See the effective federal funds rate below. An IncomeLuxe.com lesson. Quantitative easing or tightening. Quantitative easing is far rarer than raising or lowering interest rates. This is what you heard about between 2008 and 2012 called QE if you watched CNBC or Bloomberg, which let's be honest, you don't. Quantitative easing happens when Big Daddy buys the market. All the markets. Central banks buy government bonds, company bonds, public stocks, and private company stocks. This drives the market up and floods the economy with money. All this money increases spending and lending, triggering Big Daddy growth. All those assets bought up get added to the balance sheet in the bank's asset column. Where does this money come from? Thin air. The bank prints it, usually digitally. All this money floating around makes it easier to borrow money, which lowers the total interest rate in the economy. Quantitative tightening is the exact opposite. The bank floods the market with government bonds, company bonds, public stocks, and private company stocks. Big Daddy sells a thing. And the prices on everything drops. Then he takes the money and puts it in his pocket. He essentially deletes it from the economy, which slows growth. It sits in his bank vault or is actively deleted or zeroed the hell out. This money being taken out of the economy makes it harder to find money to borrow, which raises the overall economic interest rate. Dovish and hawkish. There's two terms you'll hear often in reference to central banks. A central bank is called hawkish when it uses language or actions that are likely to raise the interest rate. Think of a hawk swooping down to eat the rest of our finances, using interest rates. A central bank is called dovish when it's super cute and nice and lowers interest rates, or keeps them at the same level. It's being sweet-hearted towards your interest payments. So cute. Moving on. An IncomeLuxe.com lesson summary. Central banks want 2 to 3% inflation annually. They raise rates, hawkish, to slow inflation. They use quantitative tightening to slow inflation. They lower rates, dovish, to accelerate inflation. They use quantitative easing to accelerate inflation. This lesson is provided free of charge by IncomeLuxe.com. IncomeLuxe is a financial social club for those who want more. We introduce you to over 140 online income streams. We also provide 150 investment, finance, economic, and business lessons for social club and website members. Members get paid commissions for anyone they refer who buys a monthly, quarterly, or annual subscription. To learn more, join us at IncomeLuxe.com or Skool.com/IncomeLuxe.